session Clinical Social Work du 14 octobre. Ça, c'est session 4. On va commencer dans 5 minutes parce que je vous ai donné quelques minutes de break. Let me see your questions. Okay, I'll take your questions dans quelques minutes. Alors, clinical social work, ça veut dire là. Any question? Unit 1, 2 or 3? Comme j'ai dit, c'est-à-dire your assignment are in the process of correction. I am midway. C'est-à-dire on va expliquer encore le Genogram EcoMap in the next session. C'est-à-dire je vais donner les réponses in the last session. But Genogram, as you know, it's similar to a family tree. You have to give, like I said, and comme je vous ai démontré lors de la session précédente, there need to be symbols for male, female, or whatever symbols you use. You have to define them in a key, and it's mostly several generations if it's mentioned in the case study, or if it's with the client. Au fur et à mesure qu'il parle, vous allez update your genogram to include members, to include the different types of relationship, conflictual, distant, or if there has been divorce, separation, or casual relationship. Casual relationship is about romantic relationship with someone without marriage or engagement. If they live under the same roof, you can just circle those people living on the same roof. Donc, this is about genogram. EcoMap is, let me do it, write it down for you. Donc, if I do a genogram for, say, our client Katie, who is married to Katie, is married. Katie is a woman. I will have a key to define my symbols. This is genogram, okay? We are doing a genogram. Katie, a circle for female. Is married to Paul, and they have 2 kids together. They have Julie and Jean. 9. Donc, Katie is our client. We double it. This is our client. Can we double? You can say identify client or just client. So whatever you write here, the symbols, square is for male. Ok, ça c'est un exemple. Circle for female. Donc Katie is married to, qui j'ai dit? John. 2 kids, Julie and, j'ai oublié le nom, Patrick. Okay. Katie, Jacques, Julie, Patrick. Katie has some relationship issues with her husband since last month, and they are living separately. Donc, il y a une séparation. Ça, c'est separation. Separation. Okay. Donc, she's living separately, and John lives with Julie, while Katie lives with Patrick. Donc, Katie a pris Patrick parce qu'il est petit, et John a gardé Julie. John is with Julie, Katie with Patrick. Voilà. Donc, ça, c'est genogram of Katie, our client, who is separated. Vous pouvez mettre combien de mois? Vous pouvez créer un mois, one month here, few mois, separated. Voilà. Et s'il y a eu ceci, the mean conflict, on peut aussi mettre ça. Conflict. Ça, c'est conflict. You can also define this as a household, a circle. Pas a circle, mais this. Household. Household. Okay. This is the genogram of Kitty, married to John with 2 kids, Patrick and Julie. They are separated, they have some conflict, and they live one with one child. This is the genogram. Maintenant, EcoMap. The EcoMap would be like in the middle, you might put whoever is in the client's household. But I'm quite lenient if you include, si vous mettez le génogramme à l'intérieur, c'est OK. Si vous mettez que comment elle s'appelle la cliente? C'était quoi son nom? There was
Julie et Patrick.
Julie et Jacques. Patrick, c'était l'enfant. Julie, c'était l'enfant. Le mari, c'était Jacques et
Katie.
Katie. Thank you. Donc, Katie, you can put it here, like you can put Jacques here and the 2 kids, or you can also just put Katie with the one child who is with her. That is Julie. 7. Okay. Or you can include both kids. Tout ça, c'est correct même. Mais on va faire une façon, comme ça c'est clair pour vous. We'll include everyone here. Not everyone, but just the family. On appelle ça the immediate family. The immediate family is the family que vous avez créé. Family of origin is family, your parents, c'est-à-dire vos parents, vos frères et sœurs. Immediate families c'est la famille immédiate, c'est vos enfants, c'est votre époux. Or if you're alone, it's just you. Donc, we will include both kids. This is the EcoMap. Quand on vous demande EcoMap, vous faites le EcoMap pour le case study or for the client. Ensuite, you have a key to define pas ces choses-là parce que you already define it in the key for the genogram. There's no need, but if you are writing lines that I may not understand, or this one, or need double line, you define what they mean. Normalement, broken line, something is wrong. Straight line, it's okay. Double line, it's super okay. For Katie, she is having issues with her family. C'est-à-dire, il y a des conflits, des relational issues. Normally, you just write about family. I will go by a main title and then you define it. Instead of writing a whole paragraph, parce que, comme je dis tout le temps, un EcoMap, ça doit être brief and direct, concise and direct. C'est-à-dire, when you're looking at the EcoMap, or when your supervisor is looking at the EcoMap, or when, par exemple, vous quittez la compagnie, il y a une autre personne qui prend le cas, they look at your case, that is, you have handed over the case, they look at the EcoMap. Sometimes dépend de la compagnie, they will have, en regardant l'EcoMap, they might understand. Bon, c'est pas normalement when we hand over a case on social work or psychologist, these files are confidential, but depends on the company. Sometimes the agency might want you to hand over the cases with the files and all that. But in private practice, these are confidential files for you. But imaginez, votre superviseur doit is supervising you and they want to understand what's about the EcoMap. Donc, ils vont savoir, là, c'est la famille. And where's the problem? Family. On va mettre relational issues. Relational issues with, or between spouse, between BET spouses. Excuse me. Et puis, ce qu'on sait, c'est que children excel in studies. Ça, c'est sur education. Le title, education. Education, c'est children excel in studies. It could be, ça c'était Jacques. Jacques has côté health. What we know is that Jacques has high BP. Comme vous pouvez constater, oui, on peut regrouper les choses. Par exemple, health, education, family, entertainment, work. Ce sont des grands thèmes qu'on peut mentionner ou qui ont en relation avec le client. Maybe it's financial, unemployment, etc. Work, etc. Donc, you can just put the title and write down in a few words about the problem. Donc, là, quand vous regardez ça, you know, OK, il y a un souci santé, famille pour this client. Et l'éducation des enfants, ça marche pour le moment. Donc, you get an idea direct. It's concise, ça veut dire, on n'écrit pas beaucoup de choses. Bon, s'il y a beaucoup de problèmes, you will write it, but you tend to summarize it for you to, like, imaginez, vous avez des clients devant vous après 2-3 mois, you have hundreds of cases, and you just look at the file, and you have an idea on what you've worked, and what's the issue, maybe what's remaining, etc. Donc, it has to be brief, concise, direct, and en même temps, ça donne une idée de ce qu'il y a, ce qui cloche. Et voilà, c'est ça le EcoMap. Question?
Non, madame.
D'accord. Okay, we have Unit 3 today. Is it Unit? No, Unit 4. I know you have done ethics in another module. Donc ça doit être assez simple, en même temps pas si simple que ça, because ethics it's something practical. C'est quelque chose qu'on utilise, on doit réfléchir surtout dans la pratique. Donc this is some kind of revision for you. What are ethics, values, morals, laws and policies? Donc ethics are statements, prepositional statements or standards that are used by members of a group. For instance, the National Associations of Social Workers. For social workers, for psychologists, it's a psychological. There are many, but the main one is the American Psychological Association et the APA. Et puis, il y a plein d'autres, mais they have their ethics, but when we compare the ethics, there are some similarities about, par exemple, le respect du client, non-beneficent, ça veut dire faire du bien, non-maleficent, ça veut dire éviter de faire du mal. Donc, les ethics, they are quite similar. Donc, what are ethics? They are prepositional statements or standards that are used by members of a group of an association, such as the National Association of Social Workers. So ethics is used to determine what's the right course of action. Surtout because we work with humans et on doit avoir some kind of ethics to guide our behavior. Ethics are based on logical and rational criteria to reach a decision. Donc ça c'est ethics, these It's about statements or standards. Values describe ideas that we value, that we aspire to achieve. For instance, social justice. Donc, le narrative therapy has this aspiration of social justice. It's an affective component. An affective component is associated with values. Morals describe a behavioral code of conduct to which a person ascribes, and laws and policies. As a social worker, your profession recognizes the rule of law. You should be aware of the laws governing child rights in case you intervene with children. Donc, laws and policies. Laws, ça veut dire, on vous dit, peu importe ethics, mais ce qui est encore plus important, c'est the laws. Des fois, il y a un conflit entre the law and ethics, mais c'est sûr que the law qui aura plus de points. Donc, definition of ethics, it encompasses 4 dimensions, et it's having sufficient knowledge, skills and judgment to use effective intervention. C'est-à-dire, ethics encompasse 4 dimensions. 1, you should have the knowledge, the skills through training, through further education to use effective intervention. Secondly, it's respecting the human dignity and freedom. Quand on parle de freedom, c'est autonomy of a client. Troisième, using the power inherent in the là, c'était par rapport aux counselors' roles, but here it's about social workers' roles responsibly. Acting in ways that uphold public confidence. C'est pour ça qu'il y a des associations comme le National Association for Social Workers. It's to uphold public confidence in the profession. Ça veut dire qu'il y a quelque chose il y a une entité qui contrôle un petit peu the actions of the members through ethical code of conduct. Donc, ethics, dans le ethically, you have to, par exemple, keep updated with what's latest. You have to upgrade your skills always. You have to respect human dignity, c'est-à-dire respect de l'autre, et aussi l'autonomie, freedom, independence of the client, et acknowledge that there is a power difference between you and the client. Et quatrièmement, c'est acting in ways that uphold confidence in the profession. C'est-à-dire par rapport à comment on se comporte, comment on travaille, how professional are we, that people can trust us. Quand on parle de ethics, on parle de confidentiality. Là, pourquoi je parle counseling? Because counseling is part of social work's work. Counseling, it's part of your job, doing counseling. Donc, there are distinctions between privacy, confidentiality, and privileged communication. Privacy is the right of a person to decide what information about themselves will be shared with or withheld from others. This is about privacy. Confidentiality, dans notre profession, c'est plus à propos de confidentiality. It's an ethical concept that refers to the social work obligation to respect the client's privacy. And the promise to clients that the information they reveal during session will be protected from disclosure without their consent. Ça veut dire quand on a une session avec un client, before having sessions, when on explique comment, parce que les personnes ne savent pas des fois what to expect in a session with a social worker, with a psychologist, with a therapist. They don't know what to expect. It's des fois c'est à moins s'ils Google ou s'ils essaient de comprendre qu'est-ce qui va se passer, what are the expectations in a session, but they might not know everything. So, c'est notre devoir d'expliquer qu'est-ce qu'ils doivent attendre. Et puis, il y a un contrat entre nous et le client. Et dans ce contrat, on explique peut-être quel type de quel type de thérapie, d'approche qu'on va utiliser, what to expect, what are our fees, how many hours or how many minutes we will do the session. C'est bien expliqué. C'est ça qu'on appelle quand ils donnent leur consentement. OK, je suis d'accord de faire la session avec vous. Et que tout sera confidentiel, sauf dans les cas où you're talking about suicide, you're talking about killing someone, or there is some kind of abuse involving someone vulnerable, a child or an elderly, then we have to break confidentiality. Donc, tout ça, on explique. And it's quite clear cut. Ça, c'est quand on a un contrat avec un client, c'est pour aider le client. C'est pas pour protéger la thérapeute, mais c'est plus pour aider le client, pour expliquer que ça soit clair, qu'il y ait un rapport professionnel et le consentement est important. Qu'ils sachent que confidentialité, c'est pas dans tous les cas, comme j'ai dit, des cas où il y a d'abus, des cas où il y a un meurtre ou un suicide, où on doit report because laws most important. On a des codes d'éthique, mais la loi prévoit. Donc, confidentiality, et puis il y a privilege communication. This is a legal concept. Privilege communication laws protect clients from having a confidential communication with their counselors, therapists, social workers disclosed in a court of law without their permission. Donc, when we have to make a decision involving ethics, nous pouvons aller voir notre code d'éthique. Like I said, there are different code of ethics, but sometimes this might not be enough. For instance, American Counseling Association might not be enough. American Psychological Association might not be enough. So these are for professional, helping professional, sont des codes d'éthique. Des fois, je peux voir dans le APA ou ACA ou Couple and Marriage Family Association. Tu sais, par exemple, je donne cet exemple parce que notre association, pas association, notre council, Allied Health Council, Allied Health Professional Council, à Maurice, c'est assez récent. C'est en vigueur depuis 1 an, 2 ans. Et like in all the association, having a sexual relationship with a client is not allowed. On n'a pas le droit parce que the power differential, tout ça. Certains thérapeutes, par exemple en Amérique, ont été bannis. They don't, because for instance, they had a sexual relationship with their ex-client, or they had a sexual relationship with the parents of their client. If the client was a child, had a sexual relationship with their parents. Donc ça aussi, ça peut passer dans le board. Et la sanction, c'est être banni. You cannot practice. Mais en Maurice, par contre, it's, I don't remember, but I know it's after a few years, c'est OK. Donc ça m'avait un peu choqué parce que tout le temps, on sait que it's not allowed. You are not expected to. Donc, when facing an ethical dilemma, a helping professional can refer to the code of ethics to guide them. When you don't know what to do, you can ask your supervisor. It could be your senior social workers. It could be someone who is more senior or had more experience, or more experienced colleagues. You can ask them, but at the same time, you can refer to your code of ethics. In your manual, we talk about 2 schools of thoughts. I know you already know them because you have read about it, the deontological theories. The deon means the duty. It's your duty to do that. It's just about doing the right thing. Ça c'est duty, deontological theories. And the consequentialist, looking at the consequences of your actions. The deontological theories or duty-based theories, duty-based ethics, deontological. It rings a bell because I know you have done it previously. I know students like to answer questions on deontological theories, duty-based ethics, and consequentialist. Donc, deontological theories are concerned with what people do. It's not about the consequences. It's doing the right thing. Pour eux, you cannot justify your action by showing that it produces positive consequences. It's non-consequentialist. Donc, if you're a duty-based ethics person, you do the right thing even if that produces more or less good than doing the wrong thing. Even if it produces more harm, you have to do the right thing. Donc, some examples, it is wrong to kill innocent people. It is wrong to steal. It is wrong to tell lies. It is wrong to keep promises. It is right to keep promises. It's about doing the right thing. You do it because it's the right thing to do. You don't do wrong things. You avoid because they're wrong. C'est un peu quand les enfants développent the morality, l'aspect moral. You can read on it if you want. It's Kohlberg's theory of morality. C'est quand les enfants sont encore petits, if they learn that this is the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. They just learn things like by parents, like they know, they might be punished if they do the wrong thing. They do things because to avoid punishment. But here it's more about the next phase, like you have to do the right thing because I'm told to do so. I have to do the right thing. I have to avoid doing the wrong thing. This is duty-based. Consequentialist situate moral goodness in the consequences of your actions. Donc, on regarde plus les conséquences. Et si on regarde les conséquences, on peut dire que following this school of thought, the consequentialist, you should reflect on and focus on the goals of a session. Parce que the goals of a session, est-ce que l'approche qu'on prend will lead to the goals of a session? If the goal, par exemple, goal of a session is to help the client clarify or help them with their relational issues. C'est-à-dire l'approche qu'on a, ça doit mener à plus de clarté dans la perspective. Donc, we should reflect on the goals of a session. The consequentialist judges rightness of a behavior according to the greatest beneficial consequences for the greatest number of people. This, maximum number of people, greatest beneficial consequences to the maximum number of people. Donc, la différence, consequentialist start by considering what things are good and identify right actions as the ones that produce the maximum of those good things. Thereon, first consider what actions are right and proceed from them. You have to do the right thing. The consequences, you look at what will it produce. Si on prend, par exemple, là ça me donne une idée, consequentialist, le medical field follow the consequentialist school of thought, because quand on met un médicament sur le marché, il y a beaucoup d'études qui est fait pendant des années et tout, mais we tend to look at the benefits. Sometimes the benefits outweigh the side effects, but the side effect might have a great impact on the quality of life of a person. Yet we look at the maximum benefit. It will heal so many people. The benefit outweighed the side effects. So it's more consequentialist. Like, look, we can heal, we can treat so many people, but even though there are side effects, even though it causes harm, but donc c'est plus consequentialist. Deontologist, this is the wrong thing, using animals as des cobayes pour faire des recherches. This is the wrong thing to do, even though it will help in healing humans. Donc on comprend mieux un petit peu, on comprend l'aspect, perspective de ceux qui protègent les animaux, qui sont contre les recherches sur les animaux, et the medical field want to heal people, treat people, or make profit. They make profit and healing maximum number of people at the expense of his side effects. Ethical dilemma, c'est quoi ethical dilemma? Any question?
No, madam.
So ethical dilemma is when you are faced with not just one course of action. You have different course of action, you don't know what to do. Ethical dilemma, c'est vous, social worker, qui est face à un ethical dilemma. Because you know you have to do the right thing and you don't know what's the right thing to do. Vous êtes face à un dilemme. Pourquoi je spécifie ça là? Parce que certains élèves ont des difficultés à comprendre, pensent que c'est le client qui a un ethical dilemma. It's not the client, it's you. You have an ethical dilemma because you don't know what's the best course of action for you to take. Vous êtes face à un dilemme. Est-ce que j'interviens, je fais ça ou je fais ça? Donc, three conditions should be present for a situation to be considered an ethical dilemma. First, the social worker must make a decision about which course of action is best. Secondly, there must be different courses of action to choose from. Thirdly, no matter what course of action is taken, some ethical principle will be compromised. On prend un exemple pour expliquer. There is absolute ethical dilemma and there is approximate ethical dilemma. In absolute ethical dilemma, it's when, like I said, in National Association for Social Workers, vous avez une liste des ethical statements. But sometimes two ethical standards, they are in conflict. Comment they are in conflict? That is, dans in a case study, they might be in conflict. For instance, a social worker in a remote community with limited mental health care services is consulted on a client with agoraphobia, which is a fear of public places. Donc, a social worker in a remote community. Ça veut dire, a remote community, il n'y a pas, c'est distancé, il n'y a pas beaucoup de services là-bas, and they have to provide their services for a client who has a fear of public places. Maintenant, the social worker is not competent enough for working with someone with agoraphobia because it's a particular fear. It needs normally a psychiatrist or a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. So a social worker is not on appelle ça competent enough to work with that client. However, the client may not receive any treatment because of scarce mental health services. Ça veut dire si social worker n'intervient pas, la personne n'aura aucun service. So imaginez vous êtes à la place de ce social worker. Vous êtes à la place du social worker et vous avez un client qui habite très loin and he has this fear of public places. Il peut pas venir dans votre bureau qui est un espace public and you have to visit them. But you don't have that expertise to work with them. But if you don't do it, il n'y aura personne d'autre parce que it's limited services. Que faites-vous? Si vous n'y allez pas, il n'y aura pas de traitement pour cette personne. But at the same time, you don't have expertise to work with that client. What do you do? Vous êtes face à un dilemma, ethical dilemma. What's the ethical dilemma? It's you have that client who require a helping professional, but you don't have that knowledge to work with them. You have knowledge about social work. You don't have that knowledge to work on their fear. But if you don't intervene, they will be left alone. What can you do to help that client? Vous êtes in an ethical dilemma because you don't know what to do. If you intervene and yet you don't have the knowledge. If you don't intervene, there's no one to help that client. You are in a dilemma. Là, vous voyez, ça c'est the problem is outside the social worker's general competence. C'est Ethical Standard 1.04 qui dit que if it is outside your competence, normally you refer the case to someone who is more competent, who has that expertise. Pourquoi on a mis ça? C'est parce que, pourquoi il y a ce standard-là? C'est parce que to avoid abuse. C'est-à-dire une personne ne peut pas être expert dans toutes choses. C'est difficile. C'est pour que if you don't have that knowledge, you can cause harm because you don't know the intervention, how to intervene with that client with that particular problem. Et puis, Ethical Standard 1.01 qui dit que we are committed to our client, to their welfare. C'est-à-dire, on ne peut pas les abandonner là, parce que we're committed to promote their welfare. If we don't do that, it's like they won't get any help. On les abandonne. Par contre, là, on dit, si on n'est pas compétent, we have to refer. But refer to whom? There's no other services. Donc, que fait-on? Donc, là, c'est un pure ethical dilemma because there are two ethical standards in conflict. Donc là, on me dit can be resolved by looking at Ethical Standard 4.01, which stipulates that social workers should only accept employment, or in that case, a client, on the basis of existing competence, or if a social worker intends to gain the required knowledge. Des fois, vous savez, on a plein de cas. We have to look at the case because there's no one else to look at the case. Your colleague might not have the competency also. Dans le contexte actuel mauricien, il y a, comment dire, when you have a case, l'humain a différents problèmes et c'est divers. Sometimes we refer, but sometimes avec les procédures et aussi la lenteur des procédures, people get discouraged. So you have to do the work sometimes yourself. Donc, Ethical 4.01 stipulates that you accept a case if you have an existing competence, but you cannot just refuse a case on the basis that you don't have that knowledge. You have to upgrade your skills. Donc, social worker can accept the case, but il doit upgrade their skill. Look for further training on that issue. Upgrade their skills to be able to work with that client. Donc, faire l'effort to upgrade their skills. Donc, was about absolute dilemma, and there is also approximate dilemma. Donc, il y a des conflits entre les values, laws, and policies. For instance, a clinical social worker has to report a child abuse to the authorities, but they are concerned about releasing confidential information to another institution. There, you have to report a case of abuse to the Ministry of Women, to the CPS, Child Protection Services. But you're worried about sharing confidential information. But la loi est claire, you have to report any case of abuse the same day to the Ministry of Women, to the Child Protection Services. But you feel like you cannot report that, it's like you're breaking their confidentiality. Quoique, au début, vous avez déjà dit, everything is confidential except there is a case of abuse, etc. Donc, referring to the Code of Ethics of the National Association of Social Workers, it acknowledges the importance to follow legal requirements. You have to follow legal requirements, c'est important. But at the same time, par exemple, you work with children. À un moment donné, l'enfant vous dit, I was abused by my uncle. Et you cannot just stay quiet. Dit que the uncle lives next door, he frequently comes home. Donc, your assessment, you know there is a risk of danger. And la personne est in the environment of a child. Secondly, there has been abuse and la personne n'a rien dit. Donc, there's a high risk for a repeated sexual abuse. You have to report, even if the uncle lives far away and là, c'est un enfant, you have to report the case to the CPS, Child Protection Services. The same day. Maintenant, you don't just go and say, stop, I have to report that because you have told me about your abuse, I have to report. You have to prepare that child, like, you know, like use child age appropriate language for the child. Les rassurer aussi, mettre en confiance, ça peut prendre, normalement, you plan for a 45-minute session, it can take hours, because in case of abuse, you have to make them feel validated, etc. And then, inform them, les rassurer qu'on sera là. Des fois, on est là, même si les autorités vont venir, you have a presence that might soothe them. Pour les calmer, les rassurer, on reste là, on attend des fois à ce que l'autorité vienne prendre le cas, on might refer. Quand je dis refer, it could be on phone, parce que ça c'est important. If you will be working with children, you have to know that reporting child abuse, c'est dans la loi, sinon vous pouvez être, like, you can have a police case if you don't refer. You can refer by phone, return, phone or return. Mais votre rôle as a helping professional is to stay with to les rassurer, mettre en confiance que voilà, what's to expect following their confession. Donc, là, pourquoi c'est en conflit? Parce que you don't want to share that information. Attention que l'enfant se sente que ça a été breaking their confidentiality. se sentir à l'aise et vous allez raconter ça et à la maison, peut-être, they will be accused of bringing family issues devant tout le monde. Donc, as social workers, sometimes we are faced with that, especially if the family are not cooperative, they blame the child, then the dilemma for us, like, we have done that, we have reported that. Il y a eu des cas où ça a été rapporté et un des parents commet l'irréparable parce qu'il n'arrive pas à supporter le regard de la société, tout ça. Ou ça a été rapporté, l'enfant qui perd confiance dans la session se referme. Ou on a eu des cas aussi où we have been able to work with that child. Donc, l'affaire a été rapportée, but still, on a pu keep that child in session, travailler avec l'enfant. Donc, ethical decisions are really easy to arrive at. Dilemmas can be very complex. Social workers encounter ethical dilemmas. We are expected to engage in
Madame,
oui.
Quand vous dites rapporter, là, sans investigation, rien, là. C'est que le parole de l'enfant, là.
Ça veut dire, quand un enfant parle de abus, when you're reporting, quand je parle de reporting, là, ethical dilemma, c'est on parle de releasing confidential information. But when you're reporting, say you're a social worker, you have to report, you will say alleged case of abuse. Le alleged, ça veut dire que c'est pas confirmé. You don't do any investigation. You let the child talk, whatever I've said. You won't ask question, what happened, etc. Non, on ne pose pas de questions. On a fini de... L'enfant vous a parlé, tout ça. And you will talk about referring. You will have to talk about quelle sera la procédure avec empathie, tout ça. Hein? Et les rassurer, attention, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de peur. Attention les préjugés. You report alleged case of abuse. Child has reported alleged case of abuse. You don't give details parce que ça, l'enquête sera faite par les officiers. It's not your role to give. En même temps, you don't give information, confidential information. You're just reporting the case. Alleged case, child has reported an alleged case of abuse by uncle. Point. Non, l'âge ou l'adresse, etc. Et vous signez, c'est tout. As professional, as anyone, be it the teacher, si c'est à l'école, the teacher, the head of school, the social worker, the psychologist, or at the hospital, the medical practitioner, and clinical social worker, any professional, during your duty, you have a child who talk about que ce soit abuse, sexual, physical, you have to report it. Là, je parle de abus, mais si je parle de suicide aussi, you have to, if it's a child, you have to inform the parents to report also to Life Plus. Ça, c'est la loi. Pas d'investigation, ça c'est CPS will do investigation. CPS, Child Protection Services, along with police. They will, ça veut dire quand on réfère to CPS, Child Protection Services, they will also report to the police. La police va faire son enquête et le CPS va provide psychological help, family intervention, etc. Whichever is appropriate. S'il y a eu abus, peut-être référer, faire des tests, HIV, STDs, tout ça. Donc, il y a il y a beaucoup de procédures. Et ça va dépendre, it depends on the case, what happened, tout ça. Quand on a à prendre une décision, quelle étape prendre, ethical decision making, dans votre manuel, on parle des étapes. Ça veut dire, c'est quoi le problème, identifier le problème, de définir, identifier, définir, et involve a client. Par exemple, in case of abuse, you know, there has defined the problem, identify it's a sexual abuse, you have to report it to the authorities. Normalement, c'est pas vraiment un ethical dilemma parce qu'on sait on doit le faire. C'est clair. The law is you have to report. But why it becomes an ethical dilemma? In case the child is so fearful, et vous devez le faire. You have to reassure them, to explain it. C'est pour ça qu'on utilise le ethical decision making. Like here, we identify, you know, it's about sexual abuse, you have to report it. You involve the client. Par exemple, quand je dis involve a client, le cas d'abus, je peux dire who can support you in that process, par exemple. Expliquer que c'est clair qu'il faut qu'il y ait un referral. You might say, do you want me to be here with you? Do you want me to come tomorrow? Do you want me to be to have regular session, etc. Involve a client in the decision making. Quoique you have to take a decision to refer. But involve them means like, do you want me to talk to someone close to you, like your parents, if a parent is not the perpetrator, or some peut-être une personne proche, peut-être maman, papa, frère, sœur, adult person who might be supportive. I did have a client who asked me to tell their mom first. Et c'était très très délicat de dire, parents, voilà, your child was abused. How do you do that? But it's an ethical dilemma. You have to get prepared. You have to prepare yourself also. Donc, involve the client in the decision. Et puis revoir les codes d'éthique. C'est pour ça qu'on doit connaître notre code d'éthique. C'est qu'est-ce que je peux faire, qu'est-ce qui me conseille. Consider the principles and virtues. Qu'est-ce que vous sentez? Surtout avec de l'expérience, you get some gut feeling, like, you know, on appelle ça le spider sense. What's the right thing to do? Parlez à vos collègues ou à des experts ou à votre superviseur. Consider the context. Est-ce que c'est une famille à problème? Il y a, par exemple, si au cas l'enfant n'a pas de support from friends, il y a no friends, there's no one else. Identify desired outcomes, consider possible actions to achieve outcomes. Desired outcomes is, par exemple, que l'enfant ait le support et aussi à l'école qu'il y ait un système de support pour que l'enfant ne se sente pas seul. Choose and act on your choice. But là, c'est pas linéaire. Là, j'ai fait ça étape par étape quand je vous ai dit, but it might not be linear. For instance, if I get a problem, I might ask my colleague. At the same time, I look at this and do that. It's not linear. Ça, c'est values in social work, human dignity, social justice, service integrity, competence. OK. In ethics, il y a l'aspect supervision. In your manual, c'est à la fin de unit 4. Non, 3. Non, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Unit 4. C'est vers la fin. Supervision, c'est des fois les élèves ne portent pas beaucoup attention à la supervision, mais c'est quelque chose de très important. Supervision in our work is very important. Mais ça a plus d'axe à l'étranger. Supervision, c'est obligatoire. Maintenant que ça devient important avec like I said, the new council, the AHPC, with the Allied Health Professional Council, when they are assessing whether you are vous êtes éligible à être psychologist or counselors, they see whether you have been supervised in your studies, in your work, at work. Parce que supervision, ça, c'est pas supervision dans le travail. You have a supervisor, you have a manager who supervise your work, but supervision in your study, c'est or in a helping professional work, c'est quelque chose où c'est pas juste une personne qui va regarder si vous travaillez, si vous complétez votre travail. Non, c'est aussi qui regarde votre approche, qui peut vous conseiller, qui peut like expand your perspective. Par exemple, you know how to use Carl Rogers person-centered therapy. You do that in your session, tout ça. Your supervisor should know also person-centered therapy. And quand vous décrivez votre cas et vous expliquez que vous avez un souci avec tel cas, vous savez pas, vous êtes dans une impasse, tout ça, la personne peut vous suggérer que faire, des étapes ou l'approche. C'est-à-dire, they will enhance the model you're taking. Donc, supervision, différents niveaux. It can be administrative, like supervisors do. Ça veut dire promotion and maintenance of good standards of work, coordination of practice, assurance of an efficient, smooth running office. C'est l'aspect administratif. C'est est-ce que si vous avez un nouveau cas, you are able to look at the case within 1 week, 2 weeks. Administratif, c'est est-ce que you're able to manage your cases efficiently, you're delivering efficiently, vous êtes à l'heure, vous complétez tant de travail par jour, il n'y a pas de backlog, big backlog. Educational, your supervisor who look at whether you need to upgrade your skills, you need further competencies in certain subjects, and supportive. L'aspect supportive, c'est to enhance the working relationship. Donc, un supervisor, you will be supervising. The role of a supervisor is very important. Différents niveaux, administrative, educational, supportive. Mais surtout, l'aspect de quand vous êtes in an ethical dilemma, how can they support you through enhancing your perspective on a problem. Et puis, il y a ces deux aspects très importants dans notre travail, c'est supervision et reflexive practice. Reflexive practice, c'est toujours d'avoir cette... reflective practice is defined as making reflection in, on, and about social work situation. Si toujours après un cas, 2 cas, 1 mois, vous réfléchissez, est-ce que j'ai fait, I am doing the right thing with that client? Is it the right approach? Is it, est-ce que la relation client et thérapeute, ça passe, ou is there something that's going wrong? I'm not feeling that session, or I'm feeling pas in tune with my client. Why is that? Donc, reflective practice is thinking about what's happening in session. Or am I, est-ce que je suis bien centré pour pouvoir faire la session? Strategic, am I setting the goals for the session? Est-ce que c'est approprié? Est-ce que, am I being collaborative or am I imposing? Is it the right approach? Is it CBT? Is it the right approach with that client? Or should I use another approach because of this problem? C'est d'avoir des réflexions comme ça pour faire avancer le travail. Une pratique réflexive, c'est super important dans le travail d'un social worker, d'une thérapeute, c'est this reflective practice. Bon. Any question?
Oui, madame.
Oui.
Oui. Disons une case study, ou pas dire nous, si nous faisons servi narrative ou si nous faisons servi CBT. Mais est-ce que les deux à la fois capables de servir?
Normally, quand vous êtes à l'aise avec les deux méthodes ou plusieurs méthodes, you're at ease. Let's say you know these two methods. I know you, at least you know three: CBT, narrative, and Carl Rogers. I know you, at least you know these three. You might start with narrative. En réalité, you might, quand j'ai réalité, en dehors des case studies, you might start with Carl Rogers and narrative, because Carl Rogers, ça rentre dans tout, parce que narrative, build-up, rapport, tout cela, feel, empathie, tout ça. You can start with narrative, working with the client. But at the same time, CBT, dépendant de quel type, quelle technique you utilize, qui peut être en phase avec narrative. Par contre, if you use technique like challenging the client, I don't know if challenging the client goes in line with narrative approaches. Quelle approche? C'est différentes techniques. Dans le CBT, il y a différentes techniques. Certain techniques, if it's... comment vous dire ça? If you're using narrative, for a case study, if you're using narrative, you will have to give some examples of, you will have to use narrative terms like externalization, deconstruction, unique outcomes. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a d'autre? Mapping the effects, documenting or inviting witnesses, par exemple, or referring to une association ou un groupe. Je donne des exemples. If you have already mentioned all these in your narrative, you've got your marks. Maintenant, si vous voulez use CBT, you might you won't get additional marks because you have already covered that part of the technique, the approach, you have used an approach, you have referred, etc. Vous avez déjà complété, répondu à la question. But now, if you want to mix, you have to be expert in that to mix it with another approach. On appelle ça integrative approach. But to use integrative approach is not just take bits and pieces and mix it. You have to be expert first in the narrative parce que c'est un client, vous avez un client devant vous, you have to master that approach, then you know when to use that other one. When can you use both one? It's like narrative approach, you have used it, but there is one issue, like you want to work on that negative automatic belief, the NET, negative automatic belief. You might work on that for that session, like you say, for that I can use a cognitive behavior therapist with you. It's best for that. Donc, vous éclairez le client que voilà, vous allez utiliser une technique spécifique. They know that you're using another technique. Then you can start, you say, okay, I will use that in 1 or 2 sessions. Là, quand je vous parle comme ça, là you're an expert in that, you know what you're doing. But if you just mix narrative with CBT, it can get confusing if you don't know how to proceed. Mais pour un case study, if you have already answered using narrative therapy, you have already covered like quelques paragraphes, vous avez expliqué les différents trucs à faire avec les questions, tout ça avec les exemples. You've done your part. There's no need to mix both. But if you're at ease with it, you say, okay, with that particular problem, I might use relaxation or journaling. That's part of a CBT technique, which I will explain to the client. C'est correct. Par exemple, il y a des commonalités. Journaling, writing it down, which is also a CBT, but also a narrative therapy. Part of narrative therapy, journaling. Donc, si c'est comme ça, oui. Mais je ne peux pas dire généralement, you mix everything. Parce que c'est pas si clair que ça. It depends on the context or what techniques you will be using. I'll just quickly go through these slides. Donc, you hear me. Fundamental principle of ethics. Beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomie, justice. These are the 4 principles. Et puis, il y a eu 5e, fidelity. The first 2 étaient les premiers. C'est-à-dire, do no harm or best interest of the client. Best interest of the client, c'est beneficence. Best interest of the client. To help them. Non-maleficence était do no harm. These 2 were the main ones. Et puis, il y a eu l'autonomie, ça veut dire freedom of the client. Et puis, justice, pour nous, c'est social justice. Et puis, fidélité, fidelity, a trust. Donc, beneficence, c'est l'obligation to act for the client's benefit. Quand on parle de client benefit, it's supporting moral rules to protect and defend the right of others, prevent them from harm, remove conditions that will cause harm, help persons with disabilities and rescue persons in danger. Beneficence, là, ça englobe tout là. Quand on parle remove conditions that will cause harm, par exemple, in case of abuse, we have to report because then il y aura des investigations pour voir est-ce que la personne est en danger ou pas. Remove conditions that cause harm. Help person with disabilities. Like if you work in special needs with clients in special needs, what do you do to help them? Like modify the environment to make things more accessible. Beneficence emphasize that for beneficence, the language is positive. It's for their benefits. Par contre, non-beneficence, c'est do no harm. The language is to avoid harm. But here, beneficence is do good to our clients, benefit their welfare. Par exemple, non-maleficence, not causing harm to our client. C'est pour ça qu'on dit no sexual relationship with our client, to avoid doing harm, because there has been a trust relationship, a power differential relationship. That's why it is advised, it is recommended not to indulge in any romantic kind of relationship. Okay, autonomy, it's about, ça je passe. It's about independence, the freedom of client. Le client a le droit de choisir. That's why it's important to give them a consent form. Like, do they consent to have session with you? You explain what you do, who are you, how, par exemple, définir quelles sont vos qualifications, what type of therapy you do, tous les détails, et they are informed, we call it informed consent. They are informed of what to expect in a session. Donc, ils sont libres de choisir whether they are coming to you or to another therapist. That's based on autonomy. The consent is based on autonomy. Justice, pour nous, c'est social justice. Or distributive justice, it's about equitable, appropriate distribution of healthcare resources. Fidelity is about loyalty, faithfulness, the trust that we build with our client. Donc, how do the different principles of ethics apply to social work? Quand on parle de principle of ethics, on a vu, c'est beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, justice, and fidelity. 5. Maintenant, how do they apply to social work? Beneficence, non-maleficence. You can use it, for instance, in the social assessment, in setting goals for the session in collaboration with the client. It's for their interest. It's avoid doing harm. The choice of approach, c'est-à-dire qu'on choisit the best approach is for the best interest of the client. Quand on parle de, là c'est deux principles, beneficence and non-maleficence. Troisième principe, respect for autonomy, c'est à travers le informed consent. Informed consent, on explique qui on est, what are our qualifications, what to expect in session, etc. C'est les informer. Et when they consent to the session means they are aware. They can choose another therapist. We respect their autonomy. Et puis, côté justice, how it applies to us, it's about legal issues or public health safety issues. It's about allocation of scarce resources. Le narrative therapy, l'aspect de social justice est très présent. C'est pour ça qu'on reflect on the cultural, the oppressive society, etc. Donc, ça, c'était ça. Mais il y avait quelque chose d'autre que je voulais pratiquer. Question?
Non, madame.
I wanted to practice ethical dilemma. I have, je sais pas si j'ai upload le practice questions. Oui, when I share something, the mic goes off. Thank you. Oui, on a vu comment résoudre un ethical dilemma. There are different types. One way was to identify the problem, define the problem, collaborate with the client to reach a decision, consult your colleague, look at the code of ethics, etc. On a vu que c'était pas étape par étape, but include those things to look at when solving an ethical dilemma. Mais il y a different ways of solving ethical dilemma. One of them is okay. One of them is moral reasoning. Premièrement, on parle de virtue ethics model. C'était the personal characteristic moral beliefs of the social worker. What's the personal characteristics? Another way is the integrative model, which incorporates moral and cognitive. À nouveau. Okay, so. Donc, virtue ethics, we look at le beneficence, non-maleficence, fidelity, justice, et beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, fidelity, justice. This is looking at the virtue ethics or principle ethics. integrative model, we look at both the principle and the virtue ethics. Read this and tell me, reflect on the principles of ethics. What Paul refuses to disclose his HIV/AIDS status to his family members and friends, which in turn may isolate him from needed support and assistance. Quel principle of ethics are important in this God figure? Oui. The class rep, je sais pas si elle est dans la classe. Il y a there's a new student, Madame Gayatri Omir, who wants to get in touch with a class rep to have, if there's a WhatsApp group, to include her. You will have access to the assignment on, you click on content on Blackboard, you will have a different content, and there is assignment case study. It's under that title. Wait.
Hello, ma'am. But I tried to open it. I can't. I don't understand why the case study is not opening.
Okay.
If someone can send me on the group, it would be easy for me.
I can send it to you. Okay, I will send it to you. Can you see I have sent it on share files?
Share file on OU Blackboard or?
No, just on the
The
on the application on Collaborate.
Okay, let me click on it.
Vous avez eu accès? Ah, okay. So. Est-ce que vous avez eu accès à l'assignment? Okay. What's the answer? Paul refuses to disclose his HIV status to his family friends, qui en même temps va l'isoler parce qu'il a besoin de support, assistance. But you have this client who refuses to disclose his HIV. You have an ethical dilemma, and what is it? Doesn't want to disclose. You have an ethical dilemma. On m'a donné des réponses, on va voir. Please add Mrs. Omir on your WhatsApp group. Quelques idées? Bon, moi je pense, Paul refuses to disclose his HIV status. C'est son droit. You don't want. Okay, give me your. I know your email, so I might just send you by mail. So let me answer this one. Paul refuses to disclose the HIV status. That's his right. He doesn't want to do. Il a le droit de ne pas parce que c'est son droit. On respecte sa décision. Respecting his decision not to reveal his status, HIV status, it's respecting his autonomy, his freedom, his right to not disclose. So respecting his freedom. Freedom, it's about autonomy. C'est ça, freedom of choice. But also, we respecting his choice, but also what? Mais en même temps, we don't want to cause him any harm because by not disclosing, he has no support from friends and family. We don't want to cause him harm. We want what's best for him. C'est aussi bénéficieux. We want what's best for him. What's best for him is to have support in times of difficulty. C'est-à-dire, we respect his autonomy, but we want what's best for him to have support and autonomy. What do we do? In that case, we might just educate him about his illness, about why he needs support on this road, because it's c'est une difficulté que les amis et la famille, le soutien est important. Donc, l'éduquer un petit peu pour comprendre que, voilà, on comprend, c'est son choix, oui, mais c'est important pour lui d'avoir le soutien. Donc, pour nous, our ethics, c'est l'autonomie, respect de son choix, but we want what's best for him, beneficence. And so, on est en conflit là, c'est-à-dire we want what's best for him, but we want to respect his autonomy. Donc, we are in an ethical dilemma. So, what can we do? One way, I can talk about why it's important to have support, because it might be difficult at times, the side effect or feeling lonely, not sharing that with close ones. Donc, l'éduquer un petit peu, le parler, etc., pour l'aider à comprendre, à s'ouvrir doucement. Donc là, ce que je dis, allons voir, est-ce que c'est le cas? Donc, Paul refuses to disclose HIV status to his family and friends with methods applying the principle of beneficence could compromise the principle of autonomy. That is how to act in the best interest of a client, beneficence, by helping to understand the benefits of disclosure. Je vous ai dit là, deux principes qui sont en conflit, c'est beneficence et autonomie. But what can we do? We can educate them, the client, to understand why it's important to open up to have support. Next one, you do it. Raj will not disclose his HIV status to sex partners or drug partners. He's endangering the welfare of third parties because of risk of infection. Vous avez ce client Raj qui ne veut pas dire qu'il est HIV positive to his sexual partners or to his drug partners. Donc, ce client-là vous dit ça, you have some principles of ethics which are in conflict. Which are they? Quelques propositions. Alors, quelle a été la réponse? Maintenant, c'est bon à savoir que sometimes your answer might differ, but if you can justify your answer, it works. Parce que it's about principle ethics. Justify your answer. Like if I say for me, Raj will not disclose his HIV status to sex partners and drug partners. That's his right. Okay, his autonomy, he's independent, it's his choice. Parce que, pourquoi quand je dis ça là? Parce que HIV AIDS, il y a une loi à Maurice qui dit que on n'a pas le droit de disclose their status if they don't want to. That's the law. We can't go beyond law. Donc, will not disclose HIV. That's his autonomy, his freedom of choice, that's his right. Mais en même temps, pour moi, il met en danger la santé de ces personnes-là. Donc, pour moi, I have to avoid harm to others, non-maleficence, avoid doing harm to others. That's important. So, if I respect his autonomy, je mets en danger la vie des autres personnes. Let me see what it says here. Donc, si vous voulez expliquer votre point de vue, c'est OK. Si vous dites beneficence, vous voulez dire beneficence of third parties ou avoid causing harm to third parties. Ici, ça dit, a question for social workers facing this dilemma would be how best to protect those third parties under the principle of non-maleficence. The principle of non-maleficence seems to be in conflict with the principle of autonomy. Son choix de ne pas divulguer, mais en même temps, ça va causer du tort aux autres. Notre principe of not causing harm to others is in conflict with his choice, his autonomy, principle of autonomy. Donc là, on utilise les principles of ethics to solve ethical dilemma. Comme je dis, il y a différentes façons de resolve ethical dilemma. Here, we are using the principles of ethics. 5 principes qu'on a vus. Autonomy, beneficence, non-maleficence, autonomy, fidelity, and justice. On fait un autre exemple. Rachel, disclosure of their. Pourquoi je dis their? Because maybe they use the them pronouns. Rachel, disclosure of their HIV status may lead to potentially harmful consequences for them, for Rachel. Their partner Ross, c'est-à-dire Rachel's partner Ross, has a history of violence. Rachel may react in life-threatening ways against Rachel. Non, c'est they, Ross aussi là. Ross may react in life-threatening ways against Rachel. Donc, vous voyez, des fois, les pronoms they, them, ça peut être confusing. But still, you have to get used to it. Even if it's confusing for me sometimes. But it's how it is now. Rachel's disclosure of their HIV status may lead to potentially harmful consequences. So that if Rachel reveals, there might be harmful consequences. Ross has a history of violence. Ross can react in life-threatening ways against Rachel. Donc, quels sont les principes qui rentrent en jeu, qui sont en conflit? OK. C'est-à-dire si Rachel divulgue sa séropositivité, il y a un risque parce que Ross est violent. We don't want harm against our client. We don't want harm against Ross, because if Ross doesn't know, he might contract the virus. But if he does get to know, he might get violent. So we don't want harm against Ross. We don't want harm against Rachel. Let's see. To what extent is our duty to protect our client more important than our duty to protect the third client? Our duty to protect third part and the principles of non-maleficence to client would be in opposition to the principle of non-maleficence to others. So then we don't want Rachel to be harmed by a violent partner, and we don't want Ross to be harmed because he doesn't know. Let me see your answer. If Rachel is on treatment for HIV autonomy, if they don't want to disclose because of fear of violence, yes, their choice. However, if they are not on treatment, Ross might be harmed. So maybe Rachel will make it violent. Okay, let me see. Donc, if they are on treatment, it's for their welfare. There's no issue of not being on treatment. Even though if she's on treatment, but she has unprotected sexual intercourse, Ross might get infected because he might not be following treatment. Parce que when we will do unit in sexuality and health, we will do unit 5 on HIV/AIDS. You will see that if both partners have to protect themselves, like if you're using condoms, then it's one protection, but both could be on antiretroviral drugs, medication, ARVs. But if he's not taking ARV, he might be at risk. And if they are not protected, he might be at risk, even if Rachel is. Maintenant, if Rachel contaminated Ross, and now they have sexual intercourse, unprotected sexual intercourse, then recontamination, and comme vous voyez, c'est comme un virus, and if they don't protect themselves, le traitement peut ne pas être, might not suit them à long terme. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire? They have, even though they are taking, like if you take medication, you have to protect yourself pour éviter recontamination et tout. De multiplication du virus. Donc, je vais dire, autonomy, if they don't want to disclose because of fear of violence, yes, they don't want to disclose because of fear of violence, could be their autonomy. But non-maleficence, if Ross might harm or might be harmed, so you don't want Ross to be harmed by being by contracting the virus, so non-maleficence. So if you can justify your answer, depending how you view the principle of ethics, it is okay. Il n'y a pas de best answer. If you can justify and make some assumption also, it's okay. Okay, we'll stop here. Maybe we'll take up next time. Est-ce que vous avez eu la question du devoir, assignment question? Did you have it? Did you get it? If yes, then it's a simple three-part question. It's drawing an eco map, drawing an eco genogram, then using the person environment perspective to make the assessment based on the case study. The person left. Okay, first part of the question, assignment question, is to, did you get the assignment question? I'm taking. Donc, je vais juste stop recording. Ok, est-ce que vous avez des questions? Sinon, la classe, est-ce que vous avez des questions? Il est quelle heure? Il est 12h38 pour vous. No person is not answering. Okay, I will get to you by email, Mrs. Omir, pour le reste de la classe. Merci pour votre attention. Il est tard pour moi, il est 4h30 pour moi. Donc, je vous dis bonne journée et OK, I will send you to you by email. OK, bonne journée et à la prochaine fois, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à me poser. Yes, anyone? No? OK, you will get your results for clinical social work by before the next class. C'est-à-dire la fin de octobre. Je suis à moitié là. Je vais terminer petit à petit. Donc, bonne journée et à bientôt. Au revoir.
Merci, madame. Au revoir.
Merci, au revoir.
Yeah.